about 20 years ago, they never traveled. And they experienced the world through books. And maybe we will do the same. In a few years, we might not be able to travel everywhere. But we will probably experience the world through Google Maps. About 60% of the oil we use is used for transportation. And for tourism, the cars and planes are the two most important methods of transportation. It doesn't seem like we will have an electric plane anytime soon. But we have the electric car. The electric car was invented before Benz got his patent on the fuel-driven car. Maybe some of you read the book, Who Killed the Electric Car? Actually, the electric car was killed several times. And today, there's still companies holding back the electric car. We children, we see one main dilemma. In the few years when we are in power, we will not be able to pull the adults to account for the problems they didn't solve, as they will be dead by then. If this wasn't that way, most adults would probably act very differently. And we children see two main crises. The first crisis is a poverty crisis. 30,000 people are dying of starvation every single day. And 1/2 of the world's population lives with less than $2 a day. And the climate crisis. Every day we take as much carbon out of the ground as it took 1 million days for the sun to store it there. And everybody knows these problems. But we children don't understand why there's so little action. There are two possible reasons for this. The first one is the perception of future. For most adults, future seems to mean 20, 30, or even 40 years. But for many of us children, 2100 is still in our lifetime. So for most adults, it's an academic question. If the sea level will rise by 1, 2, or 3 centimeters, or 7 meters until 2050. But for many of us children, it's a question of survival. The second possible reason is the example of a monkey. If you let a monkey choose if he wants 1 banana now or 6 bananas later, the monkey will always choose the 1 banana now. And it seems that many adults think like these monkeys. But we want you to understand how we children think. For most adults, 9/11 is the darkest day. At that terrible terrorist act, 3,000 people died. And today, we're still fighting wars because of it. But every day, 30,000 people are dying of starvation. Who is fighting for them? For us children, 12/11 is the darkest day. About 3 months ago, at the climate conference in Durban in South Africa. Since 17 years, the adults are discussing about our future at international climate conferences. And at the last such climate conference, there was a very simple goal: to get a follow-up protocol for the Kyoto Protocol, which ends this year. But instead of getting a contract which starts next year, the countries decided that there should only be a contract in 2020. This means that in 2013, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19, all countries can exhaust unlimited amounts of CO2. And this means that the adults are not keeping the promise they have given us. The adults are breaking the 2 degrees promise. But this promise is very important. If the temperature rises by about 2.3 degrees, then the Greenland ice will melt, and the sea level will rise by 7 meters. At the climate conference 2 years ago in Cancun, the island states stood up and said, we cannot support the 2 degrees goal. At that time, our islands will already be underwater. So the countries decided on 2 degrees / 1.5 degrees. But that's not going to happen. At our academies, we children learn a very simple memory hook. If we don't want the temperature to rise by more than 2 degrees, then we're not allowed to exhaust more than 2 tons of CO2 per person per year. And if we don't want the temperature to rise by more than 1.5 degrees, then we're not allowed to exhaust more than 1.5 tons of CO2 per person per year. But right now, we're already at 5 tons. And this has increased by about 10% each year in the last years. And this means that until 2020, until we have the contract, we will already have set the stage for 5 degrees plus. And nobody knows what 5 degrees plus means. But once, when it was 5 degrees colder, there was 2 kilometers of ice above us right here. At the last climate conference in Durban, 6 of us youth from Canada stood up, and they turned around during a speech by the Canadian Environment Minister, and on the back of their shirt it said, "Turn your back to Canada." After doing this, they were thrown out of the hall and out of the conference, and a few days later, the Canadian Environment Minister returned home and gave a press conference, and he announced that Canada will cancel the Kyoto Protocol, the only contract we have which is ending this year. But Canada will cancel this protocol because according to that contract, they should have reduced their emissions by 6% compared to 1990. But they increased their emissions by 35%. And because of this, they should have paid $14 billion. But to save that money, they decided to cancel the contract. But what is 14 billion compared to our future? We children don't know what we're supposed to do. We can't just watch and do nothing. So, at many consultations all over the world, we children wrote a 3-point plan, how we would save our future if we were the heads of governments of the world. The first point is that we need to go down to 0 emissions until 2050. And the great thing about this point is that all the technology which we need for 0 emissions already exists today. The second point is that if we don't want to exceed the 2 degrees limit, we're only allowed to exhaust a limited amount of CO2 until 2050. The scientists tell us this is about 600 billion tons. This amount divided through the next years until 2050 is about 15 billion tons per year, and that divided by the world's population, which will soon be 10 billion people, is of 1.5 tons per person per year. And if someone wants to exhaust more, then they pay to the ones that exhaust less. And through that method, we can also bring poverty into the museum. And the third point is planting trees. Our goal is to plant 1 trillion trees. This is about 150 trees per person. And if we plant these trees, they will absorb 10 billion tons of CO2 each year. That's about 1 ton per person. This doesn't mean that we're allowed to exhaust more, but it's like a time joker, because we won't be able to go down to 1.5 tons immediately. About 1 year ago, I was in New York and I gave a presentation at a school there. And at the end, one boy who was 10 years old, Theo, stood up and said, "Felix, we will make this. We will do this. The Egyptians are making it as well." That was only the 7th day of the revolution there. But maybe he is right. If we don't get support from the adults, if the adults don't do anything, we might have our own children's revolution. Now I want to show you some pictures. When we started the project, Plan for the Planet, we thought we had to save the polar bear. But soon after we found out it's not about saving the polar bear. It's about our future. This is in Bangladesh. This is in Africa. This kid's not looking at his face in the water. It's drinking. So we made the sticker, "Save the Human." When we started the project Plan for the Planet, it was because we found out about Wangari Maathai, the Peace Nobel Prize laureate from Kenya. She planted 30 million trees in 30 years there with many, many other women. And that inspired us that we children could plant 1 million trees in each country of the world. She sadly died a few months ago. This was the first tree we planted 2 months after we found out about Wangari Maathai, and soon after, many children all over the world also participated in the project. Right now, in the last 5 years, with governments, with companies, with all people of the world together, we managed to plant 12.6 billion trees. And this is about 1.2% of our goal of planting 1 trillion trees. And our second goal is to become 1 million ambassadors for climate justice. Ambassadors are children that have taken part at Plan for the Planet academies. Like there's some here. We're about 8 here today. We're already 12,500 right now, and our goal is to become 1 million. We've had these academies in many countries all over the world. For example, this one was in Tanzania in the summer holidays. This one was in Pretoria, in South Africa, in Singapore about a week ago. This was at a girls' school with 400 girls there. You probably all saw the campaign in the video before. We made this picture with many prominent people all over the world. For example, the Prince of Spain. When we made this picture, it was in all newspapers there. And not just in the newspapers, but on the cover pages. Here on the side. Some children from Mexico also made something we call the e-card. If you click on our website and click on e-card, you'll get this window. Then you can upload a picture. If it doesn't fit, just upload another one. If it still doesn't fit, you can use the arrow keys. This is the president of Mexico, by the way. And then you can send the picture to your friends. We also sent our 3-point plan, how we would save our future, to all heads of governments of the world, asking them how they are planning to save our future. We sent this 3-point plan through the embassies in Berlin here, and we expected at least half of the countries to answer. But we only got 11 results. So we decided if the governments care so little about our future, then we will form the first global political party. So a political party in each country of the world that works together. We also went to many parliaments all over the world, telling them about our 3-point plan. For example, the Parliament of Mexico, or the European Parliament. We also went to many UN conferences. But it wasn't just me, there are many, many other children that are doing the same. For example, this is Maiken at the top. She's from Botswana. Below her, that's Yugratna. She's from India. She spoke at the United Nations General Assembly about 2 years ago. Then that's Clara. She's from Augsburg. And many other children do the same. We also went on Mount Kilimanjaro in the summer holidays. And we went to the top and put a flag there. And each January, many children all over the world go onto the streets and put speech bubbles on the Christmas trees after Christmas. These are word plays, they don't make sense in English. Or, please save my family tree. We also made many demonstrations all over the world. For example, this was here in Berlin about 2 years ago. One picture of our demonstrations also came into a German school book. Each kid in 10th grade who's learning about giving presentations will learn it, seeing Plan for the Planet. And we also started collecting the future fee from as many companies as possible. Future fee is that each company gives us 0.01% of their turnaround. And we already have about 30 companies to participate. And now, we just launched our first product. It's a change chocolate. Die gute Schokolade. It will be in 7,000 stores in about 2 or 3 weeks, all around Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. And hopefully, it will also be in many other countries soon. And this product will be launched through the social media. Most of you have probably heard about flash mobs, that a big group of people come together somewhere, all bringing a cushion, for example, and this is organized through Facebook or other types of social media. I'm done in a few seconds. And then people invented the carrot mob, that people come together and buy carrots in a store, and some of the money is donated to a cause, and we children invented the Schoko mob, that people come together and buy chocolate in a store. And of course, all this is organized through the social media. We just, about 1 year ago, we launched our democratic structure. We have a global board with 14 members, and this global board is elected once a year. Our elections will be in about 1.5 months from now. And we decided that in our global board, no re-elections are possible, that as many children as possible can be part of the global board. We children also wrote a book. It's already in 7 different languages, and we've got the English version here. So if you want, you can get one of our books in the back or outside. If you give us your business card, that would be great. So I hope some of you will support us, maybe through the future fee or many other ways. Thank you.